push a button, nothing explodes, right? I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, won't we?
Okay. So where were you born?
Where was I born? I was born in Howard County.
Okay.
That's Fayette, Missouri.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Who are your parents and what were their occupations?
Mostly farmers lived out in the county, and they were. You want their names? You say?
Yeah.
Okay. Wallace N. George is my dad, and Dora was my mother.
Awesome. Did you have any siblings?
Yes, I had a daughter, Jenny, Jeni, and I had two sons, Bobby Jr. and Johnny. And I don't know if you want to know what they do or not, but Johnny is in the ski business in Breckenridge, Colorado. And my son is my junior is a professional dog trainer,
Oh, that's awesome.
and my daughter is who I'm very proud of course, all three of them really. But my daughter is in Florida, West Palm Beach, Florida, and she went down there and she was a flight attendant for American Airlines.
Oh, that's cool.
And when she graduated, excuse me, when she graduated from here, she did that. She went to training for flight attendant. And I need to tell you this too, just so you'll know. But anyway, she called me the morning that 9/11 happened.
Mhm.
And she was at that time, she was living in Florida, and she would fly to New York, and she was flying quite a bit of overseas stuff. And she called me, and that was when they first bombed the first building, when they blew the building down. She said, "Dad, I'm afraid to fly anymore." I said, "Then quit right now. Don't even think about it." So American Airlines was very nice to her. They let her resign and go through all that, you know, but she just didn't. I could understand why she felt that way. But anyway, that's kind of the story of my kids.
Awesome. How did your parents feel about you joining the service?
Well, at that time, when I went, my parents had broken up, and it was kind of a bad situation. And when you were on, wasn't even 17, but like I told you, I was sworn in on my 17th birthday. But when you went in that young, you had to have a parent and sign for you. And so my dad did, and that's how I got in. And I didn't have much contact with him after that. You know, I was proud to be in the service and defending my country, and just one of those things, I guess.
Did you happen to go to college before you?
Okay, that is a story that I enjoy telling, because obviously when I went in the Navy, it was in the summer of 1946, and I hadn't even started my senior year in high school. I went to Boonville High School, lived in Boonville, Missouri, and so I got permission and got all that stuff signed up, and I left, and they put me in and then that's when they put me in the Seabees, and the CB stands for Construction Battalion. And they put me in refrigeration school in Fort Hueneme, California. And I went from there, I went 3 months, and they sent me to Guam, the island of Guam. And they were still shooting Japanese over there when I got there, but the war wasn't officially over until the end of 1946. So anyway, they sent me to Guam, and I was concerned. I got to thinking about my high school education, and so I talked to the educational officer after I got out of school, and which was still in 1946 when I went to Guam. But anyway, he wrote my educational officer wrote to my principal at Boonville High School, and so we kind of, you know, you didn't have a computer thing to to communicate at that time, and so anyway, I got a notice from them that they would like to have, if I had a picture, and I think that's a picture I might have sent them there, I don't know, but anyway, they wanted to know if I had a picture. Well, the only thing I had was when I was in the service, so I sent them a picture, and they had a thing on my diploma, and it had it said Laurel Speed Elliott High School like this across the bottom of the diploma, and he took my picture and inserted it into that Laurel Speed Elliott High School, and I graduated with my class because I had made excellent grades in the refrigeration thing, and I've done it all my life. I've been in the heating air conditioning business most of my life, thanks to the Navy, and I've made a good living out of it, and I just thank God that I was able to do that. And anyway, that's kind of the story of how I graduated from high school. So, but I did graduate with my class, which is kind of unusual. When you didn't go one day, didn't go one day to your class. But does that kind of answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Why did you join?
Why?
Yeah.
I needed a home. Just to real be blunt about it.
Let's see. And which branch did you enter?
U.S. Navy.
Yes. And why did you choose that?
Good, honey?
Why did you choose the Navy?
I kind of wanted to go to sea. I thought that would be neat. I'm a teenager, for goodness sake, you know. And I thought it would be kind of neat to be in the Navy and go to places you'd never heard of before, you know. But it didn't work that way the first 20 months because they sent me to Guam, and I was on a what they call a floating dry dock. They put me on. They assigned me to that, and ships that were getting hit or had problems, they would bring them to Guam, and they would it's called it's floating dry dock, and it goes down in the water, and the ship is going to be designed. We didn't take in the real big ships, but it's smaller ships, and they would float it into the dock. Excuse me. Then they'd pump the water out, raise it up, and then the people that were assigned to that floating dry dock, well, I would get on there and check all the refrigeration equipment they had, and that was what I did for 20 months. And so when my term, they were going to send me home. I had to go home on leave because I hadn't, been there for almost 2 years. And so anyway, I put in a request that I wanted to go to sea. And Seabees didn't usually go. They put you on an island or God knows where, you know. And I wanted to go to sea, so they did. They transferred me into the regular Navy, and I was no longer in a Seabees, and they put me on a refrigeration ship, and we carried food to all the islands: Wake, Midway, Kwajalein, and Weetalk, those kind of islands. And I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah. What type of training or schooling did you have to be able to do that?
Well, I got that when they put me in the Seabees, and they sent me to this class, and like I say, in Port Hueneme, California. That was a Navy base there, and that's how I got qualified to go on refrigeration ships. Yes.
What is your most vivid memory of your time in training school?
I guess it would be that when they the officer was in charge of the school that I went to, contacted my superintendent at school, back at Boonville.
Mhm.
And that's what I was explaining, that they got me my diploma. And what really made that all possible was the fellow that was head of the school in Boonville had just got home from the Army, and I don't imagine they would probably do that now.
Yeah.
But really, to be honest about it, the school that I went to was equal to a fantastic college, because,
Mhm.
like I say, it taught me my trade, and I did it all. I've done it all my life, thanks to the Navy.
Does any particular instructor stand out to you, or do you remember any?
Yes, there was a lieutenant when I got assigned to a ship, and his name was Lieutenant Hines. Isn't that strange? You don't forget that. But anyway, he gave me a fantastic letter when I left that ship, and he recommended me that, and that's what really got me started in civilian life, was that letter. I still got it, that letter he wrote, and recommended me that I was qualified to do any refrigeration, electrical, and he wrote a wonderful letter for me. And he didn't have to do that. He just did it because he wanted to be a nice guy, I guess you might say.
What was your first assignment after basic training?
That was when I went to Fort Hueneme. They assigned me to this school, and refrigeration school. And shoot, at that time, I thought when you opened the door that there was something automatically turned the light on. So anyway, they taught me a lot in 90 days. I went to school 90 days, and that was it.
What was your hardest part of training?
Hardest part?
Mhm.
I don't know. To be honest about it, I really enjoyed what I did, and I guess at that time, the hardest part that I probably witnessed was they had us. We had to pass all sorts of weapons, guns and stuff. And at that time, the M1 rifle was a thing that was used mostly by the Army, and we didn't. That's the only time I used it, was when I was in boot camp, and I took boot camp, and that's the first few weeks that you do, and they try to be really tough on you, and so we had to do it at the rifle range, because you had to qualify. We go to the rifle range, and of course we was in San Diego at this point, and in boot camp, and so we had I don't know how many days, I don't recall how many days, but we were on one side of the bay in San Diego at Naval Base, and the Marine Corps was on the other side of the bay, and we could see those guys over there, drilling and going through. The Marines really get carried away with that, So then they sent us over there to get qualified with the M1 rifle, and the Marines would get you down in a prone position, sit on your back, and I mean, they made it as miserable as they possibly could. But everybody passed it. That was just a kind of I guess to show them that we're the Marines and we're going to show you, or whatever. But anyway, that was a little bit not too exciting, really.
What was the hardest part of the military lifestyle for you to adapt to?
Was the food good?
What's what, huh?
Was the food good?
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah, it was most of the time. We would kill the cook that we had on the ship, and they say, well, is this the day we eat eagles or swans or whatever, Oh, and I want to tell you that one. You guys might enjoy this. The first islands that we went to when I got on the ship was the first island we hit was Midway. You probably heard of Midway, And Midway Island is in the Marianas, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful island. And of course there wasn't many people living on it at that time. And they had a bird there that was called a goonie bird. And that was actually what they were called. They were like a seagull, only they were probably bigger than a seagull. And that's the only island that you ever see them on, was Midway Island. And they would come flying in, you know, and they would land and they would roll over and stumble, and that's why they called them goonie birds. And they couldn't land worth a darn and taking off. They would take off like an airplane, they get their feet to going, and they're really unusual. And I had some pictures, I probably still got them at home, but I took some pictures of those goonie birds, because it was something you never see, you know. But that didn't have anything to do with me, I guess, but I thought it was kind of neat.
Did you receive any promotions?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They had a competition type thing when you used to. I started out as a seaman. They call your rank is seaman, and there's only you can only be promoted. There's so many months that they can't do that until you've served so many months, and I was in the fireman department, and so anyway, when I was eligible, the skipper called me up, and he said, I'm going to give you a little exam, which was really unusual at that time, but my rate or rank or whatever you want to call it was there wasn't hardly anybody doing it. That's why that R is behind the MMR I told you. That R stands for Machinist Made Refrigeration. It's a specialty rate. That's just what I got. I mean, I didn't do anything special. But anyway, every time I was eligible, I was promoted. Every month that how many months I had to do, then bingo, I was ranked. And when I ended up, after they called me back, they give me another rank. And I ended up as a first class machinist mate, MMR, and that's the same so you guys would understand, that's the same as a top sergeant in the Army.
Wow.
At the same level. They don't go by, you know, ranks like the Army does. But that was the same, and I guess, and every time I was eligible, boom, I got it. So
That's awesome.
they was very good to me.
Were you in a combat?
The only thing that that they had us do, no, I was mostly in, travel to the islands and call food, haul food, I guess. The ship I was on had 5 cargo holds, and there were 3 decks high, and they were all coolers, like walk-in cooler, walk-in medium temperature, walk-in freezers. That's all we carried on the ship. It was a huge ship, and it was just all refrigeration. And the second one I was on, when they called me back, I was in charge of all that. I was responsible for all the refrigeration on the ship, and I enjoyed it. And I don't know if you want me to jump around or not, but that was one thing that I guess that helped me at the time. I didn't really realize it, but of course we had cannons and machine guns and all that stuff on the ship, and there was we had a 3-inch cannon on the bow, and so you're assigned to what they call a general quarters station, and instead of somebody was going to come in, you were going to have a fight with, you know, the Japanese. But anyway, they put me as a hot shellman, and I know you guys don't understand what that is, but they put me as a hot shellman on that 3-inch cannon on the bow. And so every time we would have drills, you know, constantly. and shooting at airplanes. And so anyway, I had to stand there with a pair of asbestos gloves on, about this long, and they would fire that thing, and the noise, you can imagine, the noise is unbelievable. And we didn't put in
Earplugs.
no, we didn't. Oh, once I always stick a little cotton in there, and that was about it. And that got me after I got home, that was my fault. I shouldn't have done it, but anyway, I went to the skipper, Mr. Hines again. I went to Mr. Hines and I told him, I said, I'll tell you what, I said, I think I don't even remember exactly what I said, but I said, I think my duty station ought to be in the refrigeration department, because I had all this machinery in one big area, big 100-ton units, and they pumped gas and refrigerant up to all these places. And I told him, I said, I feel like that I should have my department I'm in charge of. I think that's where, because I hate that cannon. What they called it a hot shellman, the shells were 3 inches, about this big around. And they would, when the gun went off, the brass was about this long, and the brass would come shooting out of the back when it recoiled, and I would catch that brass and throw it in a basket. Well, it was kind of crazy, but that thing is hot. That's why I had those asbestos gloves on. But the skipper, Mr. Hines, Lieutenant Hines, he said, "You told me I was right. That's where I belonged." So he sent me back to the ship, and I didn't have to do it anymore. But I'd already injured my ear. That's why I had hearing aids. And so I'm jumping around here, but that's one reason that when I went to the VA, that they checked my hearing, and they said it was service related. So I get a little pension every year. They gave me. It's been a long time ago. Not as long as when I was in the service, of course. But the VA gave me a little pension because he said I'd injured my ears in the service, so it made it service related.
Right.
So anyway, I just throw that in for whatever.
Did you ever get? I'm just wondering. Did you ever get seasick, or did anyone else? Because you're on a boat.
One time.
One time.
One time I was very, very fortunate. A lot of people had bothered a lot, but I was also. You have the ship that I was on, they call it the Shaft Alley, and this big huge, had one thing to push us along in the water, and so anyway they would. Am I boring you guys?
No.
Okay. So anyway, the skipper asked me to go down. We were in a typhoon, and a typhoon is like it's a heck of a storm.
Yeah.
And the ship is going like this. And he wanted me to go down and check the grease bearings on the shaft alley. It's called the shaft alley. And the big shaft goes into the back of the ship to the turbine, And so I go down there, and boy, it was hot down there. And I go down there, and I was out the bottom of the ship, 3 decks down, and I was checking. They got these big things that the shaft goes through it. You have to have lubricant in them, and when you get in a really rough sea and the ship's going like this, you can dump the oil out of them. So I had to go down and check the oil in that shaft alley, and I got sick. And that's the only time I was ever seasick. And we called it. You can consider yourself in the Navy when the gun tubs dip seawater. And the gun tubs are pretty much on the tops of the side of the ship, and they've got big machine guns, and you go over far enough,
In the water.
and you dip water. Then they say you're officially a sailor now. Go ahead, like it was a lot of fun, but it's not much fun.
What kinds of friendships did you make while serving?
I had a guy that was in my department, and his name was Tassielli. Isn't that crazy? Remember those names? And we got out probably about the same time. And I got a call one day, and we had communicated a little bit. He knew exactly where I lived and everything. And anyway, I got a call from him. Well, he didn't have cell phones and stuff then. And so anyway, he came to Boonville to see me, and he was a great guy. I thought the world and all of him. He just a good guy, and he learned the same thing that I did. And the last count I had of him, he lived in San Francisco.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you know, it's kind of neat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual events that happened?
Oh, I'm sure there is. The best thing I can think of, if I can remember it all, this guy was a friend of mine, and he came aboard in Pearl Harbor. Dang it, I can't remember the whole story.
That's okay.
Oh, I will tell you one thing. Of course, you know, when I got called back in, you know, we didn't have any money, you know, and we were just struggling along, you know, like you do when you're that young, especially that many years ago. And I don't guess, my wife at that time, I don't guess she'd ever been hardly out of Cooper County.
Mhm.
And so I got it all set up. We came in one time to go in dry dock for repairs, and so I got in touch with her, and I said, get your gear packed and get that boy fixed up, and here's your plane tickets, and I want you to come to Hawaii. And I've got housing set up, because I had enough rank at this time. You had to be a certain level before you could get Navy housing,
Mhm.
but we did. And he was, my son was very, very, very small. And they lived at Honolulu for about almost a year.
Wow.
But I didn't see him a lot, you know, I would be gone and I'd be gone maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
Mhm.
And then I'd be home maybe for a week, and then I'd load up and we were gone again. But it was nice to have them there, they loved it. And you know, it worked out good for them. So. And the Navy took care of all that for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What did you do when you were off duty for that period of time?
Oh, we didn't do a lot. We'd go to a luau, Hukila or a luau.
Sounds fun.
That was when the girls got up and did a hula dance, or, you know, and with the flowers and all that. And we'd go on the beach and go on Liberty but see, a lot of the places that we were going to at that time, like when I went to Guam, there was just natives there on Guam at that time, and you weren't allowed to go into villages unless you got a special permit.
Mhm.
And so it was, Guam wasn't, I mean, it was kind of mountainous, the island is, but there wasn't much to do, in other words,
Right.
as far as having a good time. That was forgotten.
Do you recall the day your service ended?
Well, when my service ended, you see, when I signed up the second time, and I joined the inactive reserve, okay? Well, I always tell people I served my country for 6 years. But really, that's not accurate, because I had 2 years altogether inactive. But you still get credit for service time. And I never include that when they ask me how long I was in. I just say I was in 6 years. But actually, I was more than that, because that's 2 months, a year the first time, and then when I got out of Korea, then I did not another year before I got my discharge.
Right.
So they discharged me in 1954 in the fall of the year.
1954.
Yeah.
What was the best part of your service experience?
Well, you know, this was the most rememberable thing, I guess. We were notified one time that we all had to be cleared by the FBI. They come on the ship, and fact is, they took 2 guys off the ship that I never saw again. I don't know what, I never did know. It was all hush hush. So anyway, then they assigned us, temporarily assigned us to a fleet, and we had to go to Eniwetok. I don't know how to spell it, I don't have any idea, but it's an island. And they were gonna do an atom bomb test on Eniwetok. And they wanted us there in a fleet of ships, and which we very seldom ever did. But they wanted us there to, when they did this test on this atom bomb, they wanted us there so they could, I don't know. I don't know why they, because they'd already dropped it, you know, and killed how many thousands of Japanese people, but, which ended the war, more or less. But anyway, we had to take a lot of the natives there on our ship, and we took them to another island, and we didn't have any association with them, but they rode on our ship, and then a lot of other ships. I don't remember how many were there, but that was the most thing that I remembered. It was really, you know, something special, and before they dropped the bomb, thank God that they had us leave, and of course we had a shipload of food. And I said ship, by the way. So anyway, we left before they dropped the bomb. But there were several other ships that stayed there. And it's a strange thing. You asked me that. See, we had, I was noticing one day, I think it was, the News Tribune did an article on this guy. And I heard him when they announced that it was in the paper like mine, or I don't remember how it was, but I saw this guy, and he said that he mentioned Eniwetok. And I thought, that is really strange. And so I found out, my wife found out on a computer what his address was, and I called him. And I said, were you there when they dropped the atom bomb? And he said, how'd you know? I said, because I was too. You know? So we had a nice conflab on the phone. But you didn't usually talk about it.
Right.
Because, you know, it just, I don't know, I guess the FBI warned us, I don't remember, but they sure did a check very close on everybody that was on the ship. So that was very memorable, yes.
Let's see. Did you return home after your service, or did you go somewhere else?
No.
First, you came
Yep.
home?
Yep.
Okay. How were you received by your family and community when you got home?
Well, that was a kind of rewarding thing that newspaper guy did. And that's, I don't know, been a couple of years. I don't know if there's a date on that or not. But that's probably been a couple of years, maybe 3 years ago. And he called me and just wanted to do it, and I thought, man, this is like you guys. You know, you want to know more about what I did, and I think it's wonderful that people like you take your time to do this. And I know it's well, this guy we're getting over here today, I don't have any idea what he's going to be like, you know. So anyway, no, I've been, just like yesterday, you know, they had this gets more so every year. The people recognize veterans now. When I first got out, there was nothing hardly. Fact is, they were spitting on the guys that went to Vietnam. You know, when they would, I had a friend of mine that went to Vietnam, And he got into, he flew into San Francisco, and the people were there waiting on him, and they spit on him. Because, I don't know, but they've changed a lot of that. People have got to where now they recognize all veterans, you know. They don't just pick on the guys that, and they never did us that way. They went to Korea, but no, the people have been wonderful to me, and I've loved it. And I think it really helped me in my business. And I did mostly commercial work, heating, air conditioning, you know. And I loved the work, and thanks to the Navy.
What are some life lessons you learned from your military service?
The what now, honey?
What are some life lessons you learned from your military service?
Oh my. I don't know if I ought to go in with this with you guys, but I think you need to know it. Are we on a time level here?
We have time.
We have time.
Huh?
We have time. We have time.
Okay. I had never. I was proud of serving my country, and I always had a little trouble with that. But anyway, I had never signed up for the VA, Veterans Administration. You know. And so wife one day, she said, why don't you just go ahead and sign up, and maybe, yeah, I was, thank God, my health has been, you know, good. I can't complain. And she said, I think you could benefit by joining the VA. And you all don't have to put this in there if you don't want to, but it's a kind of a neat story. And I know you girls are probably religious, and so it kind of makes you think, you know, who's really looking out for you, you know. But anyway, I went over to VA. This is probably 54. I mean 24 is what I'm trying to say. And in other words, that hadn't been very long ago. So I went over and signed up, and I had some young guy sitting there, and I almost, well, I won't go into that, but he says, oh, you're not eligible for VA. And I said, excuse me? And he said, you're not eligible. I said, I give my country 6 years of my life. What the hell you mean I'm not eligible? Pardon my English. And so, well, he said, if you didn't sign up in 2002, you're not eligible. Well, I'll tell you what, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I left there. I got up and left over to VA, and I went out to my pickup, and I was so upset I cried. I mean, I just couldn't believe this. So anyway, I got to calling my congressman and my senators and VFW, which I belonged to for years, American Legion, what I belonged to for years, wouldn't do diddly squat to help me. And you're gonna figure this out. I know you will. But anyway, so I just forgot it. I thought, well, crap with it. So anyway, I've been a country music fan all my life, and they were having a recognition of Johnny Cash at up north of Boonville. It's a theater up there, and we belong to Central Bank because I did a lot of work for them, still do some for them, so for Central and Jefferson Bank. But anyway, we belonged to the Travel Club, and they were taking 2 busloads of people up to Air Rock at the theater, and a lot of people go up there on different things they have at this theater, big huge little bitty town just north of Boonville. So anyway, we signed up for it, and so of course, like I say, I'd already just said to heck with it, you know, on the VA. So wife and I walk over, and they stopped at 2 bus loads. And they stopped at Boonville they got a gambling boat there. And they stopped at Boonville, and the bank bought us all lunch, and at the boat. So we walk over, and there's a big line there. We walk over and got in a line, and there was a man and his wife standing there, and I said, you're going to see that there's other things that have happened that have helped me. But anyway, I just started visiting with this guy, nice man, and so we're talking a little bit here and there, and I said, you guys from Boonville? I was going to ask him, you know, because that's where I originally came from. And he said, oh no, we're from Springfield. I said, oh, okay, well, I was just kind of curious. And he said, no, I come up here once a month. He said, we like to come up here and eat at the boat because they got a good restaurant. And that's why we're here, we don't gamble. And I said, oh really, you're from Springfield? Yeah, he said, I'm on the board of directors at the VA. I said, boy, have I got a story to tell you. So, boy, business picked up after that. He said, you and your wife joined us at our table.
Mm-hmm.
So we did, and I told him my story, you know. And he said, my God, they should have rolled out the red carpet for you over there. I said, well, they practically threw me out. He said, well, we're going to look into this. And I thought, well, you know, he's just trying to be a nice guy. But he said, when you get home, I want you to mail me or email me your DD-214, and that's your service record.
Mm-hmm.
So I told Mary, I said, I think we're going to have to do that. So I got home after we got back, and I sent it to him, and well, I'll tell you, business picked up, and a guy called me from over there, and he is the head of the DAV.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I want you to come over here. I've talked to your, whatever this other guy's name was, I don't remember now. But anyway, he said, we want you to come over here, and we looking at your record. You might have some hearing problems. We want you to come over here and see our doctor. And I'm thinking, hey, wait a minute, I'm not eligible for that, you know. And he said, don't you worry about that, that's all handled. And so I thought, how are these guys doing this? So I go over there and go to this ear doctor, and boy, this guy was sharp booger. And he's the one that turned me in to be service related.
Mm-hmm.
And so the guy with the DAV, he sent me a notice and a card, and he said, the card said, this is a life membership in the DAV. Life member.
Wow.
No dues there here in Judd. And the whole thing turned completely around.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know who made this rule about this 2002, I have no idea. But see, my congressman sent me several letters, and he said, we're having trouble getting you okay because, not because of your service, because of the 2002 thing. But it just all went away,
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing. And so I'm a member of the DAV, those guys took care of that. The other guy took care of everything that I needed, and I just kind of thought like the Lord was taking good care of me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I felt about it.
That's
So you
awesome.
never know
Yeah.
how things work.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't covered?
Oh, let's see. Oh, I did a when you go to Washington D.C.
March for Life?
Huh?
No?
Oh, it's in here. Why can't I think the name of it? Honor Flight.
Honor
Oh,
Flight.
Yeah, I couldn't think of the name of it, but it's right here. But anyway, I did that. There's a lot of this stuff that you guys might want to do later, because you just keep that. But anyway, I did the Honor Flight, and that is absolutely unbelievable. There's a lady at Columbia. Her and her brother run this thing. They go for the Honor Flight, and she's an absolutely wonderful lady. And I do a radio show there, some in Jeff, and here in Jeff, I should say. And I invited her one time to come over and be a guest on this little show that I do. on Saturday mornings. Occasionally, they want me to, they call me and I go over and do it. And so I called her and she came over, and I'd like to add this story to it, if I may. So when the honor flight, and she runs the honor flight, she and her brother, and does a wonderful job for doesn't get paid anything, it's all free gratis, you know. And anyway, she called me one time, and they have a big dance at Columbia once a year around Christmas time. And so she said, we want you to, you and your wife to be sure. Now you have to pay for this. I think it's $50, so. But it's wonderful. It was probably, I think when I went, we've been a couple of times, I think we had like 250, 300 people was there. They go in that big Holiday Inn thing at Columbia, the big dance hall and, you know, all that. So she said, I would like for you to do the prayer. And I thought, oh my God, you want me to do the prayer, Dad? And she said, yes, you do it. We want you to do it. So I was really nervous about it. And I had a good friend of mine, and in fact he's my godson, and I called him one day and I said, Mark, I want you to do a prayer for me. Because I said, I've got to say a prayer to for 300 or 400 people. And I'm not used to doing that. So anyway, he did. He wrote me a wonderful prayer. So I get up there, and she introduced me to come up and do this. And I'm not doing this because you think I'm bragging. I don't mean that. So anyway, I go up there, you know, and I had rehearsed it, read it, and I started it. And when I got to the part about the guys we've lost, you know, during the wars and stuff, and I got choked up, and I couldn't finish. So anyway, I told the crowd, you know, I got about half through it, and I told the crowd, I said, you're going to have to forgive me right now. I said, I'll get caught up here in a minute, and I'll try to finish this prayer if you guys don't mind. Well, they all started clapping. So that's a very memorable situation when you do that. But anyway, that was an experience but I'll tell you about the honor flight thing. It's all done in just about 24 hours, and you go to all of the areas up there, and you guys ever been there? But it's unbelievable. And the main one, of course, they have one for the Seabees, and I didn't realize they had one. And of course, this lady was on our bus, kind of the guide us or whatever. She said, I know we have one CB. Now we're going to stop the bus. We want you to go over and we want to take a picture. You stand by that thing that represents the Seabees, which it worked out wonderfully. And it just, anyway, you go over there early, you leave real early in the middle of the night, really. And when you come back, they take a bus, go to St. Louis, and you have police escort all the way to St. Louis. You catch an airplane and you excuse me, fly to Washington, and they put us on a bus there, and we went to all the recognizable things in Washington D.C., which was really interesting. And so then coming home, it's just reverse, of course. They fly us into St. Louis. We catch a bus in St. Louis. Highway patrols are waiting for us. And so we take 70 and come back to Columbia. So anyway, we get, just before we get to Kingdom City, a lady on the bus said, we got to stop here a minute. We got to pick up some guys. And I thought, that doesn't make sense. So I hear this noise, I look up and I see these, this is like 10, 11 o'clock at night. We're coming home. And I look up and I see all these motorcycles. And you know how many there were? 500.
Oh my gosh.
500 bikes. And I'm a biker. I had Harley for a long time, which doesn't mean anything. So anyway, and they escorted us, and a trooper come on on the bus, and he said, now here's the deal. He said, we've got Interstate 70 closed. And he said, you guys have got Interstate 70 from here to Columbia.
Mhm.
No traffic, and you're gonna see people standing along the highway. Sure enough, they were, you know. And those bikes all got on and they escorted us and the patrol all the way to Columbia. So we went, you know, I mean, here they go, motorcycles everywhere, you know. I mean, it was really an unforgettable thing.
Right. Well, I don't want to interrupt, but we're out of time, so I want to thank you for sharing it.
Well, you
Thanks,
girls,
Sarah.
I'll tell you what, I've loved every bit of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, us too. Thank you so much.
Have you really?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
It
good.
was really awesome.
Now you guys are gonna have to show me how to get the heck out of here. The one right there on the top.